Hi, so we are here with Marina, who is an expert in all things service design, and I will let her tell you a little bit more about herself and what she's up to these days.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. Um, I'm Marina Terteryan. I am a service and experience designer slash entrepreneur. The noises you hear in the background are a very sweet dog who's with me. Um, I am the founder of the Y Lab, which is a design agency based in Los Angeles. Um, and I am an advocate for design and human-centered design, and how that fits into the scope of progress and innovation. So I also do a lot of community advocacy and host events and innovation talks around town.
Awesome. How is the work that you are doing, or maybe even like the broader service design field, making an impact in the world?
Well, first, let me explain what service design is. So service design is a way of thinking slash a process for either solving problems or innovating something. Um, and it's a rather new formalized field, but the method of working has been around in different contexts. It's called a million different things. It's also known as design thinking or human-centered design. Um, and it was created, or it got popularity recently as the greater business community or nonprofits or people in general started looking at ways to improve things around them. Um, and the way it's making the world a better place is that it's democratizing this ability. So previously, when it came to something like solving a problem, whether it's small within a business or it's systematic at scale, that and innovation, they were kind of treated as this special thing that, mad scientist might figure out the answer to something, or you get an idea in the shower and it's really informal. But really, there are too many things that need to be addressed, right? There's just a whole universe of opportunity in front of us. So what service design has done is found a way to make this accessible to anybody, to any company in any structure, any industry, any country, um, any kind of thing like public sector or nonprofits or social enterprise. And it's found a way to create a guided process where you can identify things and you can dive into something and develop a way to actually solve these instead of just relying on the mad scientists or the apple falling on your head. What it does is, I've been using this example, it positions you to know what's happening. So I use the apple falling on your head, but it puts you under the tree. It gives you the knowledge of what is the landscape and physics and just everything, so that when the apple does fall on your head, you know what to do with it, or to look out for it, or to be sitting there. It's just kind of a whole very, very holistic process to help you identify things that you wouldn't have come to on your own. Dog distracted me a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that's cool. That's a good way of putting it. It's almost like it makes you not just sit there waiting for the apple to fall, but it like makes you look up, right, for the opportunity.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What kind of projects are you working on right now that you're excited about?
So there's a few spaces that I'm really interested in, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out what this looks like for me, because there's too many things that I'm extremely interested in and feel really close to. So I've been trying to force myself to just narrow down to certain industries or certain spaces that that I want to focus on, at least for now. So I'm really interested in healthcare. So I'm doing a few things in that space, and the myriad of ways that the myriad of opportunities in that space to both create change to the systems that are already there, which we all know, could certainly use improvement, but also to come up with different services and different offerings that don't already exist, but that are necessary to serve the greater population. So I'm working on this project to figure out a new service for elder care, specifically for the immigrant elderly in the LA area, because there's some of that community is being served with existing offerings, but there's this new demographic of people, the actual immigrants themselves that came here, who will need a different kind of set of offerings when they're ready to retire, or when they're ready to participate in kind of these broader community initiatives. So it's a really interesting thing to explore. Aside from that, I also do a lot of work in education. That's where my background is, so it's still very much where my heart is. And I've been also getting a lot into the public sector, because I think specifically for service design, there's so many huge opportunities there, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So
that's awesome. Yeah, the opportunities are really endless. So I'm sure it's hard to narrow it down, but those are some really good initiatives. So I've been asking everybody, what has been your experience, either like in your career or as an entrepreneur, as a woman, whether good or bad?
I was thinking a lot about this, and I think the biggest helpful obstacle that I've overcome that's been really helpful, that's really guided my experience, is unlearning a lot of the social behaviors that made it really hard for me to do what I wanted to do. Even early on in my career, aside from being an entrepreneur, I think that there was a lot that I didn't realize, that I didn't question early on. So little things like culturally being taught to, sit down and be quiet as a young girl, or that women aren't allowed to do X or Y, or seeing a lot of the double standards around me, and like this messaging that I've internalized. I think for a long time, I just thought that was the way it was. And then I started and then actually when I got into design, I realized I can question everything, because that's the cornerstone of design. You question everything. So that gave me permission to question everything, because I innately wanted to, but was afraid to. And I realized that when I let go of all of that messaging and all of those learned behaviors, it just unlocked this bonus life for me, that allowed me to do basically everything I've been able to do. And I like to do a lot of introspection, and I trace back to, okay, here's a decision I made 5 years ago. How has it paid off? And that was one thing that really came up, that, once I realized that I didn't have to just follow these rules, because who's going to stop me? Like, I don't know, you can like put me in a bag and maybe that'll stop me, but as long as no one's putting me in a bag, I can do whatever I want. And there's no worse that can happen from me being a person, and me being assertive, and me trying to put good into the world, because that was the core of it. Like, I wasn't, trying to unravel these behaviors to do anything other than just put more good into the world. And so I kind of did the math and figured, okay, I'm trying to create a net benefit, net gain. So let me push my boundaries and see what happens. But this was really hard, and it came at a little bit of a cost, because I had to alienate a lot of the community that expected me to behave this way. I made a lot of unpopular life decisions that went in with this type of behavior, that I had to reconcile and kind of make peace with. But I can't imagine being any other way. Sometimes I think about how I used to be, and even just 10 years ago, and it's like a different life. It's like I didn't exist without that. So something that's it's been just the biggest factor for me. Other than that, I've been really lucky. I haven't experienced, industry discrimination. I haven't really seen some of the struggled with some of the things that a lot of women do struggle with. So I have to say, and I just owe that all to just pure dumb luck, for which I'm incredibly thankful.
That's awesome. I really like that. Just yeah, questioning the norms and, you know, kind of finding out the way to do the good that you want to do in the world, despite whatever stereotypes you think exist. That's definitely some good insight. And as I guess we're talking about Women's History Month, and so do you have anybody in mind who has either made history or is making history as a female leader role model?
So I hate being asked this question because there's so many amazing people. So I figured out a way to answer this cleanly. I was thinking, you know, who's inspired me today, as I was thinking about this. So there I have a fellow service designer in the UK named Lauren Curry, who is this really kick-ass lady boss. She's an entrepreneur and a designer, and she's co-founded a really cool design firm, and she's founded a bunch of organizations that are social impact driven. And what I love about her is that when she sees a problem, she solves it. When she sees a need, she acts on it immediately. And it's really cool to see her kind of watch as a fangirl, really, to see what new things she's going to come up with or how she adds value to the world. And I think that kind of, let's see, how do I say this? She's a shepherd for the community. So she really advocates for doing good and helping and making a difference. And she's not afraid to roll up her sleeves and get something done. So she founded this really cool initiative where it helps people create confidence by getting rid of stage fright. So whenever someone does a talk, you can opt into this thing where you have a couch behind you and you invite several people, all pre-planned, to your stage, to just sit in the stage and not be part of the talk, not participate, but to just literally be on stage and you know, just experience what it's like to have the people and the lights and the audience as a way of developing confidence and getting over your fear of public speaking. So it's a really cool initiative. She's doing this thing for new moms, which I just saw her post about. It was really interesting. So I really appreciate when people just see a thing and they, you know, go right for it in a very design centered way, where you're thinking about, who do I want to help, what difference do I want to make, and then you build your thing around that. So.
That's awesome. She sounds like a good one to follow. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, she's at Red Jotter. She has a whole persona.
Okay.
Her online presence is beyond that.
Cool. And then the last question I have for you is, do you have any advice for anyone getting into entrepreneurship, women or whoever, basically getting into starting their own business?
I think my biggest advice would be to figure out what the word brave means to you, and then to act on that, or figure out or make yourself brave, help yourself be brave. Whether you feel like you embody that, or you're trying to get to that point, do whatever it takes. If you need to go skydiving or learn Krav Maga or do improv comedy, or learn, perform music in front of a bunch of people, find little ways to make yourself do brave things, and let that add up to your personality and your persona, and what you're and trickle down to what you're trying to build. I found that that's really the core mindset that allows you. And it's not just being fearless, like, not being afraid of anything. Be afraid of anything you need to be afraid of, totally fine, but go do it anyway, and figure out what it takes, figure out what systems or support or whatever it takes for you to be able to be afraid of, but go do it anyway. Whether it's a support system or little victories that might give you the confidence then to do a bigger thing, whatever it is, just find a way to amp up your brave points, and then everything is possible.
That's really great advice. Some of the advice that's been given so far is to really stay committed to your goal, or, even when things are hard or scary, just go for it. But I think this adds another piece to that, because it recognizes like, yeah, things are scary, and you do have to, there are things that you have to do to actually make yourself be brave and have that confidence. So yeah, I really appreciate that piece of advice.
Nice. I love those. It's all part of the greater whole, right?
Definitely. Yeah. And before we totally wrap up, where can people find you?
My favorite way to find me is at the Y Lab on Twitter, or online at thewylab.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marina. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Happy Women's History Month.
Oh, yeah.